I'm Barb Kelly. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I'm going to talk to you about the number one issue I see in going back to school that is just going to make your back to school transition so much easier if you have an anxious child. But it's actually relevant for all kinds of anxiety, not just back to school. And I'm going to give you one tip that is going to be a game changer. You might begin to notice that your child starts to get a little bit anxious about going back to school and gets a case of the what ifs. What if I don't have the right school supplies or they don't come in time? What if I have to sit at the desk next to a child that I don't like? What if I'm lonely and I don't have any friends? What if I can't do the schoolwork? The what ifs start and they just don't stop. And what starts to happen is you engage in a tug of war with anxiety. And it doesn't matter how much you reassure the child that, of course, they'll make friends, they'll be fine, they've got this. Anxiety just hears this and gets bigger and stronger and actually grows. This makes no sense at all, but this is what research on anxiety actually tells us that happens. It's counterintuitive. This is actually called reassurance seeking and is one of the main factors in maintaining anxiety. And you might find that you don't just notice it around school anxiety. If anxiety lives in your house, you'll notice around a lot of things. Maybe it's at bedtime and the child might ask, have you checked the doors? What if a robber starts to break in? What will I do? Or they might ask questions when you're going out. Will you come back? Will you remember to pick me up? What if you're late? What will I do? It's at this point that most parents start to freak out when they realize they've been doing something that seemed so right that actually is instead reinforcing anxiety. And they ask me, what should I do? So I'm going to give you a few tips, but the main thing you're already going to do differently is you're going to notice when a child is actually doing reassurance seeking and you're not going to provide that reassurance. That's going to stress them out for just a little bit, but once they realize and they catch on, it's going to get a lot easier. When you notice that your child is doing reassurance seeking, I want you to stop. And if you just did this step alone, you're going to be a lot further along than you would have been otherwise. But your child's probably going to panic a little bit because you're not doing something that they're really used to. And in fact, anxiety has been loving. So what you need to do is the next step is T. I want you to notice what is the child thinking? You could say something like, oh, you're having the thought that you won't have any friends at school. This gives this tiny bit of distance between what we're thinking and reality. And a child might start to realize that not everything we think is true. O is for observe. So just notice what's going on for the child. So after you've said what they're thinking, you could observe and say, oh, I've really seen that your face looks really worried. Your heart is racing and you've got some tears in your eyes. I'm wondering if you're a bit sad and worried. So you're observing their body symptoms and their emotions. The P stands for problem solve. So now that you've got the child calmer, you've actually quietened anxiety, you've got the child in a better frame of mind. So don't do this in the middle of the dramas and the complaining. I want you to wait and problem solve, but not you doing it for them. I want the child to reassure themselves. So you could say, oh, wow, you're having the thought that you might not have any friends at school this term. What could you do about that? What's the chances of that happening? Have you ever had a time where you've had to make friends before? How did that work out for you? And all of a sudden the child has reassured themselves and anxiety quietens. Well, there you have it. That's my evidence-based strategies for beating anxiety and my number one tip in supporting your child to getting back to school with the least amount of stress as possible. You've been listening to Barb Kelly, clinical psychologist, and all the best with that, or as I like to say, may the force be with you.